Yes, I am Jeremy Meiss with XDA-Developers. You might find me there under jerdog. I am a senior moderator, I'm a news writer, I'm a member of a number of the committees, developer committee, moderator committee. My main job for XDA is OEM relations manager, which means it's some fun little thing that means that I work with reaching out to the different OEMs and find ways for them to work with developers, whether it be through some individual kind of programs, or if they want to do contests, or they want to, we've done some stuff with Sony, and we've done some stuff with, we're actually going to be doing some stuff with Asus as well coming up soon, and with a number of other OEMs, and so finding a way for them to just cut through a lot of that noise and reach out to the developers that really help make the community run, and also giving them a resource that, how many of you guys have people that come to you and ask, what device do you recommend? I'm sure probably every one of us has at one point or another had a family member, a friend, a not so friend that wants to know what device, and you've recommended it. And we know that with a group of, we have over 6 million members, as Matthew kind of mentioned earlier, over 6 million members. We have 25 million unique visitors per month that hit the site. And we know that there's a lot of highly influential people that, based on their experience with the device that they have in hand, can influence a OEM's hit on the target market. And so that's part of my role, is to interface with them, to work with you guys, to just find ways to build in that community and help get your name out there. And so that's my main role as it fades off. So, and obviously it's the largest, XDA is the largest mobile development community that is out there. We started back in 2003. So I'm going to kind of go through some of the things we're going to talk about here. There it is. So let's talk about our beginnings. I'll talk about a lot of the growing pains we've had. Some of you, if you've been around on XDA for a long time, I'm sure you know some of those. And then we'll talk about presently where we're at and some of the things we have planned for the future. And then we'll hopefully, if we have some time, I don't want to take too long. I know we have beers to be drank and things to be won, so I don't want to take too much, but hopefully we'll have some time for Q&A that's there. So, starting out, who here knows where XDA started? What'd you say? Yes, it was in the Netherlands. Where in the Netherlands? Because you know it's a big place. Okay, Amsterdam. It was actually formed in the backyard of a couple guys that in late 2003, they got these new devices that were coming out, these PDAs, and they enjoyed them, but they thought, they had a real hacker mentality, thought, the people that we bought these from, they want us to use it this way, but we really want to do something more with it. And so they started really hacking away at it. Back then, it was Windows CE, Windows Mobile, or Windows Phone. I forget which one. I don't use, of the 5 people out there that use Windows Phone, I'm not sure what exactly it was called back then. But how many of you guys had one of the old Windows mobile devices? Yeah, and it worked. By today's standards, they were not, anything like what we had today. But back then, it was a novelty. And these guys, these two kind of started this community of people that really just wanted to get together, hack it up. Now we have open source with Android and some of the others that are out there, but Windows has never been that way. And so it took a lot of hacking to change things up, even theming to adding new features. And so their whole desire was to do that, and created this kind of community that started out really small. Started out with just a couple guys. The original founders were Peter Pullman, was not his real name. And there's only a few people that actually know who he is in real life. And then it's me. It's not it's me. It's actually the person named It's Me. Again, there's only a few people that actually know, and only one of them is actually still active on XDA, and by active I mean like once, maybe every 6 months. From there, how many of you guys know where the name XDA originally came from? Predominantly over on that, James.
It's the HTC XDA is when they did the branding of the O2. So O2 XDA was the name of the HTC Wallaby.
HTC Wallaby, right? Yeah, correct. Anyone know what any of the other names that it was referred to as?
Would it be, there's also the other manufacturers, so it'd be like the SPVs and the MDAs?
MDA, yeah, so T-Mobile had an MDA back then, yeah. QTech had one, it was a QTech 1100. There was also, another name was Siemens, back when they actually had phones, it was the Siemens SX56. So that's, XDA came from, and so they all had Wallabies, and they thought, we're going to be developing for this device, so we're going to call ourselves XDA-Developers. The name XDA is actually licensed to O2 until 2026, I believe. But so that's kind of where XDA-Developers came from. It was just a group of guys that wanted to develop on the XDA device. So a couple of the different versions, there was obviously the Wallaby, there's XDA-2, there was the XDA Zinc, and I don't remember what the last one there is. The one on the bottom right. Gosh, it's been so long. It was an O2 device. I don't remember the exact name on it. It could be. It could be. It was in the UK, or yes, that was a UK device, I believe. So, we've come a long way. These were devices. Who all had one of these? Okay. So yeah, again, predominantly over on this side. The more mature section, right? The more mature section is over here, and so they've been around a little longer. Like Gary. Really, I was really just pointing out at Gary. Gary, right over there. Anyone that happens to be around Gary. Yeah, there's Dave over there, right? Hi, Dave. All right, so we've undergone, if you guys ever, have spent any time in XDA over the last 12, 13 years, you've definitely seen that we've gone through many a facelift since 2003. I'll show you some of what things look like. This was in 2003. At the time, we had 3,016 registered users. This was at the end of 2003. There were 14 people online at one time, which back then was absolutely amazing.
Probably one of them was me.
Probably. But there were 11 guests. So people that were just browsing that hadn't, signed up yet. So that was 2003. We were using the old PHP BB bulletin system that was around for a while. It's still around, but nobody really uses it anymore. And it was just for the XDA device. And there were only 20,000 posts at that point. So fast forward to 2004, things started to change a little bit. We started to write up, do a lot of customization to the software. Still at this time was PHP-BB. Still only one device, but now we'd almost doubled within about a year. Actually, this was a few months after the first one, so within a couple months, we almost doubled to almost 6,000. And in 2006, now we're at almost 130,000 users. We started to see 22 different devices that started to appear on XDA at this point. And all of them, of course, were HTC devices. And we're now at about 300,000 posts, 129,000 users, registered users. We still always had people that would lurk, is kind of the internet term, but they would just kind of sit around, not get involved, but read all the content that was there. And then in 2008, we saw an explosion of, we were up to about 1 million users at that point. So from 2006 to 2008, grew exponentially, had 1 million users, 2 million posts, but still largely had HTC Windows phones, even though Android was starting to kind of be beginning to come along. Still wasn't a huge deal at that moment, but we still just had HTC Windows phones. And then it wasn't until 2009 that the first Android phones started appearing on XDA. And that was a pretty big jump for us. At the time, we were just being, we'd stuck very much to our origins. The people that had started XDA were still kind of involved, and kind of had the idea that it was just going to be, HTC phones, Windows phones, that's all it was. That's our core, that's what we would be. And then in 2009, obviously, it was really kind of late 2008, early 2009, first Android phones, like I said, started appearing. And by the end of 2009, we had doubled our members and posts just in that short period of time. And 2011, we now start to see 3.5 million users. So in just a short, we're just starting to grow very fast. And 2013, as you can see, kind of the, if we go back real quick, this will let me go back. So you see kind of the themes start to change a little bit, get a little more customized. Back gone is that little yellow, still keeping the brown around. 2013, 4.5 million users. And things are starting to take shape. We've started to have a news portal and started to really kind of take a lot of the information that was out there on the internet and present it to our users. And then today, we have 6.3 million, it's actually 6.29, but I rounded up, 6.3 million users today, and 56 million posts. And at any one time, we will have, we've had sometimes 400,000 plus users on at any one time. I'm sorry, 400-some thousand active users. We have had up to 100,000 users on at one point. Obviously, as a site grows that big, there's going to be if you've spent any time in server management, your headaches start to grow and grow and grow. And so we've obviously gone through a number of changes. Some of those headaches, obviously, we talked about the facelifts. In early 2009, we sold to JB Online Media, which is a group of guys that really were very passionate about mobile, and started to see this site. They really were interested in XDA. They're kind of enthusiasts at heart. And the original founders had, as life happens, they kind of move on and weren't really able to give a lot of attention to it. The site was growing just by leaps and bounds by 2009, as we just talked about, and they couldn't devote the attention needed and make the decisions that were needed from a server perspective, from user perspective, from management. And so they sold the site, JB Online Media, in 2009, and JB Online committed to growing XDA and becoming more developed, maintaining that developer focus. James, do you remember what year you actually joined?
2004.
Okay.
2004. Well, when I got the XDA, so it would have been 2003.
Late 2003. Okay. So you've seen a lot of changes in the site and all of that. Okay. So obviously there's going to be growing pains. If you grow as fast and as vast as something like this does, there's going to be growing pains. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about some of those. Some of those we're still feeling. It's just the nature of the beast. It is the internet after all. Attack of the trolls. Like I said, if you spend any time on XDA, any time on the internet, you find any forum, any even news outlets, you're going to have people that just, keyboard warriors, call them what you want.
Awesome.
that works really well too. It's a good term. I have to start using that one. Yeah, assholes. Everybody has them, and we tend to have a lot of them actually. And so it just happens. And around the time that things started to grow exponentially, we realized that we had a growth in self-entitled users who were demanding. They hounded developers about ETAs, got really out of hand, generally acted like little children. And you would think that maybe a lot of them were, a lot of them weren't. Even at this time, back in late 2009, 2010, the average age of users that was on XDA was still above 18, 19, 20, into the mid-20s. A lot of these people just, assholes, is the way to explain it, and acted like little children. There's a name for anonymous nuisances on the internet. It is troll, obviously. I do want to thank Gary for posing for the next graphic. It's one that I asked him, could he send me a picture in? I wanted to kind of give like an anatomy of what an internet troll really looks like. And so he took a selfie. He used a selfie stick and took the selfie, sent it in. And I really appreciate that. It's showing us the anatomy of an internet troll. So they're mischievous. They flame wars is there. They have junk food input. They have no pity, rage, bitter irony, a lot of bile, hair in unexpected places. I appreciate you didn't send that photo. Rarely used. They rarely use their muscles except for occasional stretches, excited jiggle reflex. They are constantly junk food. They sit at the computer for long hours and type idiotic, stupid comments. In fact, a good friend of mine is here and has had to deal with quite a few of those in the past. And it's just, the reality is any internet forum, we're not immune to it. But at the time, we just weren't prepared to deal with it. So, gone through those growing pains. We also had a growth in hanging the work of others and then begging for donations. You guys have all probably seen somebody that takes something that somebody else has done, maybe changed up a few things, and then said, give me monies, or donate please, or comes up with something about the fact that they lost their job, or they need a computer, and they should be donated to because they spent all of 15 minutes repackaging a WinZip, and we call them WinZip devs. They just repackaged the WinZip and said, hey, give me money. Or that they take a theme, put it on there, and then say, this is the bestest work. You probably all have seen that, hey, this is the best battery life, and it's the fastest, and it's amazing, and it's great. And it's just the same thing. The snake oil is definitely prevalent out there. But there's a growth in that, and like I said, we had growing pains there. So we also had that rapid expansion on the exterior, but we were slow to respond as a company and really as a community. And so we started doing, the moderator committee kind of stepped up and says, we need to get some good people involved, moderators that really need to step up and help kind of curate the site and help it grow. And so respond to it. Obviously, population explosion. Many of them were Americans. I will gladly say that we suck. And I hate Americans almost as much as probably most of the world, and have no qualm saying it. There we go. So at the time, in 2009, we only had 20 moderators that were moderating at that time, almost 1 million users and 20-some million posts that were out there, or 2 million posts that were out there. And so we obviously realized we needed more. We needed people that really had a passion for development and had a passion for helping out the community. And so we started to grow that. We formed a moderator committee. We tasked with streamlining selection and assignment of moderators that were in the different sections, and so that way people could really help out the community. We started taking applications for people that wanted to be a moderator, and if you do want to be a moderator on XDA, you feel like you'd love to, see me, we can talk. It has its moments. Now we have over 100 different FSMs, we have senior moderators, and things have definitely changed, I think, for the better from where it was back then, but it's an internet site. It just happens. Things sometimes get out of hand. Presently, so I said we have almost 6.5 million users. We're really helping to try and return to our developer roots. Part of that is why we focused on OEM relations, to help with that kind of developer getting a lot of the independent developers that are creating a lot of the things out there can offer a wealth of information to OEMs. And so, returning to those roots, we started up different programs to help highlight, recognized developers, senior recognized developers, recognized contributors, those that are really contributing and giving them, some place on the site, different themers that have done a really good job, different programs there. We started creating a lot of different environments where devs can help learn. We started up something called XDA University, which is a place for people to kind of share their ideas and how do you become a better developer and how do you, give back to the community and learn about open source and learn about how all that stuff works. So we've really tried to give back in that way. And then we've tried to emphasize quality, helping people that really put stuff out there that's quality, not just quantity, not just throwing stuff out and move on to the next thing. We really want quality work because it helps everybody. So there's also this thing called original versus derivative work. And so you've all seen like those stock ROMs. We talked about snake oil. An example here is somebody that took Mona Lisa. A stock ROM is something that they had a vision from an OEM. They put it out there. And then you have somebody that has kind of taken that and said, you know what, I kind of like that idea, but I want to do something really original. And I'd say that's a pretty original piece of work. It has its basis in the Mona Lisa to some extent because, for this instance, it's Android, but it's definitely original. And then both are working towards perfection. They're both working to try and create something that's original and new and amazing. That's what we want to encourage. We have the derivative works, which is somebody takes a stock ROM, and then they do little minor things like this, and they say, "Give me money." That's not work, and there's a place for it, but we really want to encourage people to do the original stuff, not the color something up, put a new set of sunglasses on it, graffiti it up, and say, "Hey, please give me money." It's not what we want to encourage. And so if you've ever spent some time on XDA, you've seen in a lot of the new sections, we have the original Android development section, and then we have just the regular Android development section, pushing people to really think about, if you're going to create a kernel, or you're going to create a new built from source, you have CEngineMod, you have OmniROM, you have Slim, you have a number of these original products that kind of take their own take on Android and work with different people and try and bring out a new product. Those are the things we want to encourage. There's a place for people that want to just take a stock ROM and add a little bit, and that's great, but we really want to encourage the quality over the quantity. And then, of course, there's GPL compliance. And we talked a little bit earlier, Caleb talked about the OEMs and some of the little issues that come in as they're trying to get products out. You see stuff that's just, I saw one device that I know I've seen on 3 different companies that came from this one original device manufacturer, and it's like, oh yeah, I know what that device is. It's XYZ, and that's just going to happen. And one of the issues that really comes out is that GPL v2. How many of you guys are familiar with what GPL is? Okay. So basically, it's a public general public license. Version 2, and that's the license that the Linux kernel, which obviously Android is based on, is covered. And so that requires that whoever is distributing software has to provide the kernel source. Some companies do it to where, even weeks before the device is released, they've released their kernel source that allows developers to either throw that into custom ROMs and start to build from source derivatives of Android. It also takes people that want to create actually their own custom kernels for those devices that are going to be coming out. They can take that and building on the work of others, which is the whole idea that Linus had when he went this whole route and with the Linux kernel, licensed it, is that he wanted the community to always be giving back. And you stand, when you're a kernel developer, you're an OEM, when you're releasing software, you're standing on the the shoulders of people that have come before you, creating that groundwork. And so, Linus wanted everybody to honor that. The sad thing is there are people that just don't. Sometimes it is a matter of them not having gotten the stuff, the specific things from their ODM. Some OEMs, they say that. The reality is that, from a licensing perspective, the law doesn't, there is a law for that. It's copyright law, and you have to have that available. And so we really encourage, and that's part of our thing too, is my role is to work with the OEMs and different companies out there that are sending out work that is based on GPL and other licenses that are out there, that they really help contribute and understand that there are developers out there that have code either that's been submitted into Linux mainstream, or they have work that could definitely benefit other companies. There really is not that much, especially when it comes down to the kernel level, that is that unique from anyone else. And so, everybody has something that they can offer. And so we really try to work with not only the developers on XDA and make sure that they're in compliance. We have our own set of rules that build upon GPL v2. As a community, we require that if you're going to submit something that's based on the work of someone else, you need to make sure you say it came from that person. The GPL does not require that. We require that as kind of that extra going above and beyond. But it's, we really want to encourage more and more open source opportunities within the community because everybody benefits. And that's been our driving force with XDA, the things we've done our own developer conferences in the last couple of years. We're going to be having one this year, later on this year. And we really wanted to give back to the community because we feel like when the community gives, we give, everybody benefits, and there's that karma, and the same thing applies when it comes to open source. So that's that. We have a number of things going on in the future. We're always upgrading. If you happen to notice, the theme for not only XDA, but the theme for the portal has changed over the last few years, but even within the last few months, the news portal itself has gone through a lot of change. And we really are trying to encourage timely information that is presented. We want to create new features for developers so that we have what's called DevDB, which allows you, if you're going to create something, a place that you can store files on a very fast server worldwide. You don't have to use some of these that, you never know where exactly they're hosted. We have a huge file server that we provide for users. We can provide source control. We can provide issue management, all those different things that we want to provide for developers and create a good central spot for you, the service. We're always looking for new tools, new ideas. If you have any, that if you're a developer out there and you would love to see a certain thing that you feel like would be really helpful for you at XDA, come talk to me. And we're always looking for ideas that can help give back to the community. All of that's free that we give for the user. It's not something that we charge saying, hey, you can use our file server, but you have to pay. No, it's completely free. It's a service for you guys, and we're always looking for those things we can give back. It's also why we created just about a little over a year ago a professional development services company to help companies that are looking for ways to work with the community, work with developers to create new works, and sometimes don't know how to get a hold of developers to work on a project or to help work on custom software. And so that's a company that I manage with XDA. And we want to continue to give back to the community in every possible way we can. So that kind of gives a huge dump of kind of who XDA is, where we've come from, where we are now, where we're going. Any questions? I'd make this nice and quick. Yes?
Are you able to share with us anything about your revenue model?
Ads, it is. To be honest, we have a lot of servers and a lot of staff. We actually have 6 full-paid, full-time staff that work from servers. We have one main server admin, and then we have database admin. We have a couple PHP developers that have to keep the site going and adding all these new features. If anybody's familiar with vBulletin, is a pretty popular forum software. We have had to, with all the things that we do with it, and as large as we are, it's never really made to run a site as large as XDA, and so we've had to, we have developers that spend day in, day out keeping it running, adding new features, and all of that. So the revenue model is ads and sponsorships. So we have OEMs that will sponsor, they want to sponsor XDA TV, which is our YouTube channel, essentially. And so they want to sponsor that, and so that goes right back into the site. We don't make money outside of what we have to spend in order to keep the site going. There's a lot of people out there that say, you look Alexa and all those, they give all the nice little, say, hey, such and such a site makes X amount ads. People don't click on ads anymore. They just don't. So the revenue model is obviously ads and sponsorships, but our driving force has always been to put that right back to the community. So for instance, DevCon, like we've done the last few years, we operate at a break even every time. Everything goes back, which is why we offer food. We do, it's crazy. I think some of you guys were there in Manchester this year. And we want to make it a good community and continue to give back to the community. So. Anyone else? Yes?
Do you have any plans to work on perhaps tweaking or improving like thread searches and things? You often hear from people that they couldn't find easily. Some threads are quite, when they get to a certain size, it's perhaps not the most intuitive or responsive search in terms of order and things, and you can often get duplicate posts where the answer was already in a thread and people just can't bother to look because the search is somewhat inefficient in some areas.
One thing when it's 1 page, 2 pages, 3 pages, but when you have 300 pages in one thread, it's hard to find. Yeah, you're right, and it's, one of our forum rules is search, but you're right, search is not, it's not as intuitive as it could be. Part of the issue with that is vBulletin was not designed for such a large site. We're at the point now where if we want to change search, and that's one thing that we're constantly trying to work on, we would have to completely redo the site, start with a whole new forum software and migrate everything there. So those are things we are exploring on a pretty regular basis. There are things that we've done to try and make search better. I think it has gotten better, but it's not where I would love to see it. But we're also not Google. So there's, we've tried to make it, we've added, if you've spent any time, you've probably seen the thread links are now more descriptive. They actually use the English language instead of this thread number. It actually, we added a lot more SEO stuff that allows for people searching for information outside of XDA itself to find what they're looking for a lot quicker. We've put in Google custom search in areas that we can, and that has helped, but it is something we're very aware of. We'd love it to be better than it is. Yes?
Where do the blog people log on from? Is it browser or mobile apps? Like desktop or mobile apps?
Obviously not from that. Is that one of those that the charger exploded it? Is that one of those expanded?
Because we have to use Bluetooth, but we fixing it for us, which is quite nice.
Oh, that's good guy HTC. So the question is, where's the traffic, desktop and mobile? Still predominantly desktop based. But we have, over the last 2 years, obviously, as the rest of the internet has seen, mobile browsing has gone up. That's one of the reasons why we devoted a lot of attention to redoing our theme so that it was a lot more mobile responsive. With something like threads and all of that, it's very difficult to make something with all of that text that's easy enough to read without having to scroll through so much. And so mobile is just a challenge within a forum structure, but it has gotten better, and so we are focusing on that. We also started our own forum app instead of using Tapatalk, which bears with it the common term Tapa-crap. If you ever use Tapatalk, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It is crap. We moved away from it. From a company perspective, we have created our own that we've open sourced, and we want people to contribute to the app to help make it better. So that's kind of a plug too. If you would love to work on the XDA app, come see me. We're working with people to try and drive that to get better. The core app itself works, and it's a lot better than browsing on the web. But I would say, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but I wouldn't say it's exactly 50-50 yet in terms of browser and desktop, or desktop and mobile, sorry.
I have a quick question.
Yes?
This is my own curiosity, but have you ever in the past, or potentially see yourself in the future, potentially come across any legal issues with the fact that you are facilitating the download of what some people, some brands might see as illegal copies of their software? Just out of curiosity, if that's happened in the past, or if you might have covered.
We have OEMs constantly contact me and say, hey, such and such is out there. The reality is it's Apache. You can do whatever you want with it.
Yeah.
Now, there are certain things that an OEM has created that has certain licensing itself that is different, but nobody has a source code for that. So it's a very sticky situation when it comes down to it. Where appropriate, we'll take things down. We have, obviously, if somebody has signed in, I've done this with HTC, I've done this with some other companies. If somebody's part of a special program where they've had to sign an NDA saying they're not going to leak something, and that software gets out there, I'll remove it in a heartbeat, because there's certain legal things. Outside of that, it's a case-by-case basis. We honor, we respond. We actually have an open GitHub that puts all of our DMCA takedown requests. We throw them up there so everybody can see what somebody's requesting to be taken off, and then we respond appropriately. When it comes down to it, Android, like I said, the framework, core Android, is it's Apache. So, but again, it just,
I was only asking because I'm a fan, I'll be heartbroken.
understood, right? No, and I understand
It's
that.
really difficult.
Understand? No, I welcome the question because, like I said, we take it on a case-by-case basis, and I'll analyze those and look at it and make a decision from there. It's also one of the reasons why Google does not. Choose my words carefully. Formally acknowledge XDA from a. They don't formally acknowledge us, even though we're a lot of stuff's going on that's helping them grow. And in fact, I know personally of a number of Google engineers, Android engineers, that spend time on XDA, but they don't formally acknowledge it. Because by doing so, that puts some of their partners a little angry, I'm sure at times. There's various reasons for it, and I know some of them, and I can't speak to them. But that's why we don't get a lot of hand-holding or handshakes from Google.
I know when I first started getting into Android, and in fact when Android was first starting out, I know almost all of the people who come to these kind of events will have visited XDA just for the simple fact that it wasn't, I don't know how can I phrase this because we've got a lot of Android brands, but it wasn't good enough, and XDA-Developers and the people on XDA-Developers found ways to make it work.
Yeah.
And even up through, like my HTC Hero is one of my favourite devices ever. Love the big chip, it was great. But
I can see why.
Yeah,
I can see why you like the big chin.
yeah, I've got. I'm sorry, Jim.
Selfies back then.
But after a very, very short time, it didn't cut the mustard. You went to XDA, you put a new ROM on it, bang, it worked, you know. I know that Stu's got a G1 that I think he managed to get. Did we get Kit Kat on the G1 in the end?
There was somebody did, yeah.
Yeah, and the HD2 was just such a fun device to do. You know, as we've gone on, the ROMs have become more, I think, like AOSP and Cyanogen owes, this is my personal opinion, that Cyanogen owes everything to XDA because it's where it started and it's where it came from.